All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time. Do me a favor, and if you would locate the chat box, that would be great because we did put some information in there for you already. As a quick reminder, we've got 30 minutes today. In the chat box, there's a reminder that we will be recording our session today. You will get that automatically. And we also will share our slides with you as well. So you'll get both of those things automatically. You'll see in the chat box that you just need to keep an eye on your email for that. So I'm excited to be here with you all today because I know that there are so many people out there being impacted by layoffs and a lot of people saying their job search has extended understandably for longer than they would like. So we are here to talk today about 5 ways to update your resume. And this is co-hosted by Georgia State. And we also invite Create Your Career Path friends and people that have worked with us as well. So thank you all for joining us. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to give you 5 tips today to update your resume in broad strokes and kind of broad terms here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. I've been coaching and training since 2002. My running joke is that I'm getting more gray hair up here. Luckily, for a while, for me, it was more underneath. I turned 52 this year, and I love what I do. We're happy to present this material for people because we know a lot of people out there are searching for a new position. I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And the reason why we're here today, if you take a look at our next slide, is that updating your resume can be really overwhelming. So right out of the box here, please know that you are not alone. I do not think we've probably had maybe 2 people since I've been coaching since 2002 say, I love updating my resume. Not many people enjoy doing this. So we want you to know that if you feel like any of these things on this slide and the woman on this slide, like you're about to pull your hair out with your resume because you don't know where to start, you don't know what formatting to use, you're not sure what to include and what to leave out. And if you feel like, gosh, I'm not a good writer, I don't know how to do this, it's totally understandable. You're not alone. This is very, very normal. And we are here to help you make this as easy as possible in the time that we have today. The reason why, as we all know, resumes are so important, and it is worth spending the time or getting help with this, whether it's someone like us or someone else, is that I think, as we all know, that statistics show that most people, like a human being, only scan your resume for 10 to 15 seconds, taking a look at whether they want to continue to read it or not. And there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs. On average, a job opening attracts 250 resumes. It's much higher than usual now because of all of the layoffs going on. And so it's really important for you, as much as you possibly can, to explain and demonstrate how you stand out from the crowd and your competition of peers who are also going for those jobs. And really give some thought to, what are my unique selling points? What are the 2 or 3 things that I have that are going to be different from other people looking for this same job? So as we said a moment ago, we are going to give you a lot of tips and advice today. And I know it can sometimes feel overwhelming, and we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So please know that we would recommend choosing 1 action step that you will take on and take away from today that you'll implement in the next week to get started on working on and updating your resume. And remember, you can revisit the recording and the slides later. That's referenced in the chat box. So you will get both of those things and you can check those out later on. So to not get overwhelmed, pick 1 thing that you will tackle. Let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about today until 12:30 Eastern Time. Our agenda is to discuss, and I will show you some thoughts and ideas about how to format your resume. Resumes look prettier than they used to these days, and it's okay to use a little bit of color, a little bit of shading to help certain things stand out and help it be easier for the human eye to kind of scan through. but you also have to make sure with your formatting that you're not going to mess up the scanning systems either. And we'll show you how to do that. We'll talk next about branding. What we find with our clients is that they may even do a great job about having their bullet points be results oriented or all of this other good stuff with their resume. But what most people don't do a great job of is really branding themselves effectively. And that's one of the things that we want you to focus on as a starting point. We'll talk next today about your profile summary. We want you to have one at the very top. The fourth thing is relevance and how important it is for your resume to only include the things that are going to be relevant for the job that you're applying to any given time. And then we'll talk for our fifth step about employment history. We have great resume templates and a LinkedIn guide that is fantastic. You can purchase it using the QR code on the slide here. Our clients love this and they get a ton out of it, especially when they leverage the LinkedIn guide and the templates together, because the guide is not just about updating your LinkedIn profile, but it's how to effectively use LinkedIn to get in front of people. So let's take a look at our next slide. There's 3 criteria that we want you to be paying attention to when you're updating your resume. Of course, we want it to sell you. That's the first thing that most people think about and consider. But we also want you to feel confident and even more confident in your skills and abilities after you've updated your resume. You need to feel good about handing it over to someone. And then finally, as we said a moment ago, the third really important criteria that most people miss out on is this idea of branding yourself. How am I different from the competition and my peers who might be applying for these types of jobs? So let's talk about our first step or tip. And this is to consider the formatting of your resume. I know some people in the past have felt like, well, why does the formatting matter? Isn't that just the fluff? And, who really cares about that? The formatting these days is critically important for a lot of different reasons. One, you want your resume to be more eye-catching than it used to be in the old days. We want you to have it stand out from the crowd. But you also have to make sure that you are going to get past the scanning systems as well. And this is one of the things we want to talk about first. So I put some of those resources and some information in the chat box. Take a look at that as we're talking today. But one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you as a starting point is we do encourage you to use a little bit of color on your resume to help you stand out and make it look more contemporary. One color is fine, and then some gray shading, for example. We don't want you to use a bunch of different colors. We don't want it to look like a circus. It needs to look professional. The colors that we tend to prefer are blue, sometimes red, and green. Those are the 3 that tend to be the most common, typical, etc. And if you look at these examples on the slide here, you'll notice that there's a really nice header at the top with your contact information. This is part of branding you. Underneath here, you've got the job title that you're applying to and a branding statement underneath. And there's a summary, there's a list of key qualifications and skills, etc. These images, I realize, are small because we're not focused on the text right now. We're just focusing on layout. And we do want it to be easy for someone to scan and read. Be careful if you download a template from an online platform or somewhere online, because sometimes these really fancy resumes don't always get past the scanning systems. Ours do. Ours look good, and they also get past the scanning systems. And that's our goal with clients, because we don't want you to have 5 different resumes that you're using, because that starts to get overwhelming. Job searching as it is overwhelming. So it's really nice if you can create what we call a master resume that has all of your content and all of your information, that every time you apply for a job, you're simply spending 10 or 15 minutes paring it down and making adjustments, and then sending it off to apply or sending it off to network with someone, okay? So be careful about those online templates. We wrote ours for the purposes of making sure that they serve both purposes, if you will. With the formatting, you want to make sure that your font styles are consistent. You want to make sure that your layout is consistent. So on this slide are things to avoid: too many font styles, inconsistent layout. Make sure that you've got enough white space and margins. You don't want it to look so packed full with information that someone's like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. It's going to be too much to read. You want to make sure that you've got enough white space, and you want to avoid underlining and avoid tables or columns as well, okay? And one of the things with formatting is if you are uploading it into a job board or for an application, or if you're sending it to a friend or a networking connection, you want to make sure that you save the resume in a PDF format. Because the problem is if you upload it or send it over as a Word document and their version of Word is different from yours, when they pop it open, it's going to look all jumbled and messed up. So make sure that you've got the ability to transfer it into a PDF. Now, if you look at the left side of this slide, some people prefer, and this is okay if this is your preference, to have one fancier version for interviewing and networking, and then a more plain version that's just text only for applying online. That's fine if that's your preference, but we like for people to keep it simple and just have the one. So either way, it's up to you. And like we said already, if you look at the right-hand side of the slide, make sure too that you're not overusing bold, italics, or capitalization. One of the things that we find is people tend to overcapitalize things that don't necessarily need to be capitalized. And sometimes it can end up looking like there are typos or errors in there. So really think wisely or hard about what you really need to capitalize versus you don't need to. And we do like this idea of having a little bit of shading and a little bit of color, again, to make it look contemporary, but also easy to read. Let's talk next about our idea of branding. And this is our second step. And as we've said a few times, the thing that most people miss out on that we really want you to pay attention to. Your resume is your personal brand. It's a marketing document for you. You're selling yourself. And we want you to feel like at the very top of your resume, in the first two sections or the first section, that someone can land on your resume, open it up, and they know exactly who you are, what you bring to the table, and what you're looking for. If you can locate the chat box, we'd love to hear from people. If just as a yes or no, if you have a branded banner or not. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but we'd love to take a quick poll as we're going here. The chat box should be in a box right at the bottom or on the left-hand side of your screen where the control bar is. So just give us a yes or no if that's the case for you. Your banner does not have to look exactly like this. So I'll hop over to the screen here. If you've got a degree that's going to be relevant for the jobs you're applying to, we encourage you to put it up here at the top so it's not buried at the bottom. We like for people to have a tagline that explains like their unique selling points. This is kind of like your elevator speech. Obviously, you're going to have your contact information here at the top as well. But what we're talking about with branding is that when I land on this person's profile or their resume, I know that they're a coach and a facilitator. That's the job that they have and the job that they're going for. But they also are really good at being a leader, problem solving, and kind of being a visionary, strategic, big picture thinking, all of that good stuff too. Okay. So as part of it, oh, and I'm sorry you're not seeing things posted in the chat box. Let me put some stuff here and see if I can put some things in the Q&A box. And because I think we were having trouble with our chat box before, so I apologize about that. So if you can locate the Q&A box, we will get that fixed for next time. I just put some things in there. I also want to remind everyone who just joined us that we are recording, and you will receive that and the slides automatically. So locate the Q&A box. We'll get that fixed for next time. So having some kind of branded banner at the top with a summary statement is part of what's so important to help you stand out from the crowd. And again, when someone lands on your resume, we want them to know right away, this is who they are and what they might be looking for. Okay. All right, good. Glad you're seeing it in the Q&A box. Sorry about that. All right. So the tagline at the top should be targeted towards the job that you're going for every time you're applying for a job. So you may want to make some slight adjustments to that over time. But for the most part, if you're applying for the same types of positions, it's going to be the same type of thing over time. But keep in mind that we want you to always make sure that you're tailoring your unique selling points, including your soft skills in your resume and in your summary, as well as any tangible technical skills like data analysis, all that other good stuff. And what I mean by this is talk about your leadership ability, talk about your ability to mentor others, to manage change, to handle things like you're calm under pressure, work under tight deadlines. Those soft skills are the things that are going to tip the scales for an employer to hire you versus someone else, as long as you've got the same amount of qualifications for the most part. And when you're trying to think about your elevator speech and your tagline, think about what you're known for. What do people come to you for help on? And if you left the room at your previous job or your current job, and your coworkers were talking about you in a good way, of course, what would they say? Like, oh yeah, she's the one you call when ABC. That's how you can start to think about your tagline and your elevator speech. All right, good. Let's talk next about your profile summary. And by the way, we want everyone to have a summary statement at the top. We personally do not want people to use an objective statement. We think that's obvious. Your objective is to get the job you're applying to, right? So we prefer for people to have a summary statement instead that sells them for the job. That's the point of that section or piece of the resume, okay? The summary statement can be a short paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences. Doesn't have to be that long, but it should answer these questions on the right-hand side of the slide. What skills do you bring to the table? What value do you have? And why should I bother reading this, so to speak? So really focus on your top, most tangible, most important skills and strengths in the summary statement. You can put the rest of them down further in the resume, and really think about, if I was reading this, or if you were reading this as a prospective employer, what value I want to know, what value can you bring to me and how can you impact my bottom line? In your summary statement, it is okay, if you take a look at the left-hand side of the slide, it's okay to include a few numbers, maybe a 1% and results-oriented statements in here. But remember, you can just include some of those top ones because the rest of them are going to be in your experience section, and you don't want it to be too redundant, like the same exact thing. In your summary statement, we want you to focus on your most impressive, relevant accomplishments, okay? Here's an example of one way to write your summary statement, and there's different reasons why we have people do it as a bulleted list versus as a paragraph format. But if you take a look at this, and what I mean by the branding, please, contact information up here, I know who this guy is right away. He's a marketing and communications strategist. He's not the creative director. He's not the graphic designer. He strategizes, and he's also had experience in not just strategic marketing, but business development, and even more so, community outreach. So that's really specific in a good way. So this is what makes someone want to read your resume further and make them feel like you are qualified for their specific job because you've got this really good branding content at the top. Let's talk next about relevance. Your resume is not one size fits all. It's really important for you to tailor your resume to each job. I know some people will tell us, and I totally get it, I'm the same way, like, I know how to do all this cool stuff. Shouldn't I put it on there? You want to think about the employer and the ATS scanning systems as a dog on a scent. This is my silly, analogy, okay? And if the dog is looking for chicken and you toss in beef in there, they're going to go somewhere else, okay? So you want to keep it very, very relevant. Don't put things in there that are not going to be relevant for that job, okay? So when you're tailoring your resume to each position, we want you to highlight the relevant skills and expertise that you have. Make sure that you're identifying quantifiable results as often as you can. We know you can't do it all the time, but for your bullet points and skills and experience. And remember, as we said earlier, we like for people to have a master copy of their resume. And this is why we sell them on our website as well as our LinkedIn guide, because our templates will be nice looking, but also get you past the scanners. And our templates have a guide to explain to you for each situation that you're in and each section in the resume, what you need to do and how you need to adjust it for each job. So with the templates comes really good explanation of how to tailor it each time as well. When you're thinking about relevance, remember, like we talked about, include those soft skills, whether it's I'm able to work effectively remotely, whether it's change management, all of that good stuff. And at the very bottom of this slide here, if you take a look, we also want you to make sure when you're tailoring your resume for relevance, get rid of any company or industry specific lingo that you might be using that pigeonholes you in that area. And also, if you need to genericize some of your language a little bit more to identify or articulate and sell yourself on transferable skills, we want you to do that too. Really quickly, before we close out with our final step for today, we always offer a free consult. If you have questions from our session today and you need specific advice on your unique situation, I always offer a free consult to learn about our services to find out if it's the right fit for you or not. There's no obligation there. I'll answer questions about what we do, help you find the right fit. We do offer a discount for our webinar attendees. So please let me know that you attended this webinar so I can give you that coupon code. And we are also doing a quick promotion. If you sign up before March 31st, you get a free StrengthsFinder assessment, which will help you articulate your strengths and results and all that other good stuff on your resume. You can also, if you locate the Q&A box, that is also where our information is to schedule a consult, as well as a link to our LinkedIn guide and our resume templates too. Let's talk next about our fifth step, and this is how to write out and clearly articulate your employment history. So we all know there's different ways that we can outline our experience, right? And this is what we're talking about with this section. There's chronological. If we look at the next slide, that's the most common, where your most recent job is first and then backwards, right? That's the ideal resume format, if you will, because strictly functional resumes, which is number 2 here, can sometimes raise a red flag for prospective employers and recruiters. So what we like for people to do, if they're trying to make a change or a shift, or if for whatever reason they really want to focus a little bit less on, their job history and more on their transferable skills, we would recommend a hybrid version of their resume. That is one of the templates that we sell when you purchase our templates online, so that you have an example of that in those situations where you need it, that also will get you past the scanning systems. When you're looking at a hybrid version of your resume, if you will, the idea here is that in your experience section and in other sections on your resume, you're putting a heading that's like adept multitasker on this slide, writing skills, whatever it is, and your bullet points speak to those headings. So they're kind of like subheadings in your experience section. It's still chronological, but you're selling yourself based on those transferable skills more. And that's the idea of that hybrid version resume. Finally, with our employment history or that experience section, 3 things you want to make sure you do listed on this slide. As a quick reminder, before we start to wrap up today, you will receive the slides automatically and you'll receive the recording automatically. Take a look at the Q&A box because there's some other resources there too. With your experience section, make sure that your sentences are starting with strong active verbs. The second thing you want to make sure you're doing is selecting the top 5 to 7 accomplishments for your bullet points that would be most relevant to the position that you're going for. And the third item on this slide is, as we said earlier, include measurable results wherever possible. We know, though, that not everybody has a job that has numbers and percentages as results. Either that's not how your job works, or your company didn't track those. There are ways to still word things as results oriented. Contact us. We can help you in a resume review. That's one of our lowest cost options with resume, and we'll show you exactly what you need to say and do for this. Some final extra tips before we go. Make sure that your cover letter has the same formatting, and you can use AI to help you with your materials. Please do not rely solely on it. Employers and recruiters tell us they can tell when it's been solely written by AI and they do not like it. So use it for ideas and suggestions, but don't solely rely on it. We do have another webinar coming up. It's April 22nd, co-hosted by Georgia State again, and it's about how to delegate at work. If you are on our email list already, you will get notifications about all of our other free upcoming webinars. We are happy to provide this free content to people to help everyone out as much as we possibly can. And if you are interested in our coaching services, as I said earlier, you can schedule a consult. There's a link in the Q&A box. The QR code is here. Remember at the beginning, we said that we would love it if you would identify one action step that you will take in the next week. This is the time to get out your pen and paper, or your phone or computer or whatever, and write that down. Is it, ooh, I need to update my header? Is it, I need to ensure my bullet points are results oriented? It could be anything that makes sense for you based on where you are related to updating your resume. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone. We greatly appreciate it. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about our services and how we can assist you further. We've got lots of really good options on our resume page on our site. And we also have a career blog that has some great advice on our site as well for free. Have a wonderful day. I hope this was helpful for you as a starting point.